Poise. That silly little number attached to various pieces of armor that tells you on a scale of 0 to 100 just how ugly you are. But it also increases your resistance to being staggered by enemy attacks, and in PvP, if you don't have the poise to tank certain attacks, then you're in for a difficult time. But poise isn't some all-powerful force that can't be overcome. In fact, you can even make use of someone's high poise to work in your favor, letting you set up different attacks and new combos that would otherwise be impossible.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Oh my God!
Poise can be broken down into two categories: passive poise and active poise. Passive poise is equal to the value given by your armor, and active poise is given by any amount from hyper armor that you get through specific attacks. When naked, you always have 0 passive poise, meaning that quite literally anything, and I mean anything, even the thorns from a piece of Briar's armor, can stagger you. Poise has its own invisible health bar, and whenever you're hit by an attack that has less poise damage than your total poise, then your poise health is reduced by that amount. Poise health is reset back to full if you ever A. drop below 0 poise health, or B. receive no hits for 30 seconds. But an attack doesn't actually have to cause damage in order for poise damage to be dealt. Okay, what the fuck does that mean? Let's break it down. Attacks work on a two-sided confirmation. If you attack a player and you see the hit pass through their hitbox while they're not in iframes, but the opponent sees themselves roll in time to avoid the hit on their side of the connection, then they'll receive a phantom hit. A phantom hit will cause no actual damage to the target, but apply any relevant status buildup and poise damage. If you do enough poise damage on a phantom hit that would reduce their poise health to 0, then they'll receive no stagger, and their poise health is reset. But if you do a small amount of poise damage, their poise health will be reduced by that amount. This is where we get into the concept of poise counting. Most one- and two-handed attacks have a base amount of poise damage that they deal on the first swing, and roughly half that amount of poise damage on follow-up swings. If you happen to be fighting some kind of double-stuffed Oreo who has more poise than they do brain cells, then you'll be disappointed to find that many of the attacks from follow-up swings, and even the first attacks of some weapons, won't be enough to break their passive poise. If you land a hit that isn't enough to break the opponent's passive poise, then this can set you up for a lot of opportunities. Say your opponent is running around 115 poise. If you land the second swing of a curved sword, whether it's the full hit or as a phantom hit, then their poise health will be reduced to 28. From there, anything that deals over 28 poise damage will be able to break their passive poise. So a really good pairing to go along with this is something like Starfists, which do 30 poise damage on the first part of their running attack as early as 10 frames, making it virtually unreactable. So now you've effectively forced the player into a 50-50. If they try and delay their roll to avoid the second hit, then they'll be stunned by the first. But if they panic roll to avoid the unreactable first hit, then they'll be caught by the second. This provides the player immense pressure against an opponent, letting them play super aggressively despite the opponent's high base poise.
Nope.
That is, until we get into hyper armor. Hyper armor, or active poise, is additional poise that you're given during hyper armor frames of specific attacks. During hyper armor frames, additional poise is added to your poise health, relative to the weapon that you're using, where bigger weapons contribute more poise. But after hyper armor frames expire, any additional poise that you were given during hyper armor frames is reduced. So, if you're hit with an attack during hyper armor frames, which reduces your total poise to less than whatever the weapon was providing, then when the hyper armor ends, you'll be left with 0 poise. However, in this case, it won't actually reset, meaning that you will be staggered even by a fan dagger. There's also a quirky little glitch with Briar's armor, and if you roll into a player that has their poise health reduced to 0, then their poise health won't actually reset, since the game doesn't properly identify Briar's armor as an attack. In the past, you could heal your own poise health just by swinging around your weapon with hyper armor, but back in patch 1.10, the hyper armor calculation was changed. So now this only works with specific Ashes of War, including things like Storm Stomp, Storm Assault, and Wild Strikes, all of which have a shared property that's listed in the frame data as is non-effective correction for min. But all you need to know is that if someone's standing there spamming Storm Stomp in your face, then you can forget trying to poise count them and just go ahead and kill them instead. There's all kinds of unique and interesting ways that you can make use of poise counting to give you combos and openings in PvP. It's all about knowing exactly how your setup works and the openings that you can take advantage of. An offhand dagger can be a great tool to chip poise to open up the opportunity for a poise break with a main hand weapon like a whip or backhand blades, which may not stagger someone with high poise. A dagger then true combos from the whip, giving you a safe and reliable setup into the next opportunity to hit with the whip. If you're using Milady, and you hit with a follow-up R1 after the initial attack, then the attack will chip for 96 poise damage, giving you a clean opportunity for things like a crouch attack from Power Stance Thrusting Swords, or the running attack from Star Fists, letting you take advantage of even a poise stacking monstrosity, like myself, with little to no effort. As of patch 1.13, there's several important poise breakpoints that you need to be aware of. These breakpoints are the amount of passive poise that you need in order to tank specific attacks. You don't necessarily need to meet any of the required breakpoints in order to be effective, but it can make the difference between winning and losing if you come against that specific matchup. The most important of these breakpoints is 68 poise for the backswing of small weapons, 89 poise for the recent buff to the Dryleaf and Beast Claws, 97 for the massive increase in popularity in LGS, 105 for off-stock and off-dagger setups, and 111 for the first swing of any one-handed small weapons. Anything more than that lets you get away with some really stupid shit that I don't think should even be legal, but it's there if you want to invest for it. Personally, I run 88 poise without Willgoat Talisman, then I just swap it on, bringing me to 117, in case I need to deal with anything within the range from 88 to 115. But keep in mind that it's fairly easy to get poise chipped by a quick fan dagger, and all that investment that you might have put in towards trying to tank a specific attack could be simply invalidated with the press of a button. But why bother tryharding this much, calculating poise damage, optimizing armor sets, and all this shit? That's the question I get asked a lot, and to be honest, I don't know what the fuck your problem is. Like, what do you want? How can you sit there on one hand, complain about L2 spam, brain-dead one-shot builds, and projectiles that nuke your frame rate, and yet at the same time, you want to complain about people that put in the time to learn the mechanics of the game? To me, this is far more engaging and enjoyable gameplay. It's a lot more work, but it increases the depth of the gameplay experience. It makes it more fun. It makes it interesting, whether you're poise counting to avoid getting blendered, or if you're doing it to set up some weirdly specific combo. Who cares? Just have fun. Try shit out and see what you can pull off. But that's going to do it for this video. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.